Hello, everyone. This is criminal profiler Pat Brown, and I am going nuts seeing article after article in the media, and of course, it's all over TV and the internet that the case of Jack the Ripper has been solved. And you know how? Well, DNA. And we all know these days, if you say the word DNA, it means absolute proof. And we need to stop believing that every time we hear DNA. It doesn't necessarily mean that something has been solved because DNA is involved. DNA is a lot more complicated than people think. And there's all kinds of DNA testing, all kinds of DNA evidence. So one thing is not the same as another thing. So in this case, we have this DNA that has now solved the case of Jack the Ripper, and it is dun, 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 Aaron Kosminski. And I will say, dun, 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 I don't think it is him. And yes, I am biased because I did a video, which you can see here, and I believe the best suspect is Jacob Levy. Now, I say best suspect because I have no proof it is Jacob Levy, but click the link below and watch my video and see all the evidence I put out to support that I believe Jacob Levy is a better suspect than many. I did a show on Jack the Ripper years ago on the mystery files, and then got to follow it up with this video, which is a lot more in depth. And but I don't have proof. There is zero proof at this point in time that anybody is a Jack the Ripper. And for the media to go berserko, as they usually do, and for so many people to come forward and just simply say, oh my God, it's been proven, DNA. Now, what's the problem with this whole thing? So when it first came out, I did a short bit on one of my hangouts, and I'm like, I'm just not buying it because I'm not seeing any kind of substantiating proof that the DNA was done properly, what the DNA exactly was, how it actually matched. I'm not seeing the proof. You're just telling me DNA matches and it's him. And then I'm thinking, and where did you get this from? And supposedly the DNA came off this shawl. And I'm like, a shawl. Now, now, the Jack the Ripper murders happened a whole long time ago. And whose shawl is this? And let me tell you how it is presented. Okay, the guy who's behind all of this, his name is Russell Edwards. He's what they say a historical crime enthusiast. I'm not quite sure what he really is, a ripperologist. Anyway, 17 years ago, a bloody scarf thought to have been worn by one of the victims, Catherine Eddowes. Thought, at least this article puts thought in there, which is a good thing, thought to have been worn by Catherine when she died. It was purchased by historical crime enthusiast Russell Edwards. He hoped it would finally uncover the Ripper's true identity, who he always believed was this guy, so he's going to make sure it matches this guy. He found a genetic scientist willing to examine the tattered silk scarf and analyze under laboratory conditions. It was eventually confirmed that the shawl still contained traces of DNA from Jack the Ripper and Catherine. Okay, this is where the article now fails. Confirmed. Who's confirming it? Who is checking on the confirmation? You're just saying this stuff. And I'm like, it's frustrating to me because he's not one of my top suspects. I know he is for a lot of people. He was in the area. He's certifiably insane, I guess, at the time. He was a barber. I guess he went to prostitutes. So, but you could probably put an X on a whole bunch of people in that area and come up with the same conclusions. I don't see anything particular that links him, except the police supposedly looked into him, but did they? And I'll get into some of the more logical facts in a minute about why this is exaggerated. Now, my suspect, Jacob Levy, the reason I like him is he did also live in the area. He also ended up in an institution. He got syphilis from prostitutes. He was married, and he ran a butcher business in the area. And one of the things about being a butcher is that when you're running around town in the middle of the night with an apron on with blood on it, Nobody pays attention to you. First of all, you live in the area, everybody knows you. You're the guy, get my meat from. They don't necessarily suspect you just because you have bloody hands or you have a knife or you have a body part in your butcher shop, because you probably have a lot of body parts, livers and kidneys and all kinds of things from animals. You chuck a woman's body part in there, even your wife probably won't pay attention to it. And so, and this is a guy who's also capable with a knife. And he used to wander around all night long. As my wife would say, didn't know what was going on with him. He just wandering around town. And the kind of guy who's going to commit a crime like this, I don't have a problem with him being a suspect. I don't. Some of the stupider suspects were like the Prince or Walter Sickert. Patricia Cornwell decided she was going to make this famous artist be Jack the Ripper because it sells books. And but this is a scuzzy part of town, shall we say, and the women that were killed weren't exactly your top level prostitutes as far as looks and age went. So the kind of person who's going to have sex with a girl in a courtyard, or a woman who's 45 years old in the courtyard, or behind a door or whatever, because these weren't inside crimes. Four of them were not. The one, Mary Kelly at the end, was an inside crime, which I do not think was Jack the Ripper. I think that was someone who knew her, who after he got enraged and killed her, he staged the crime to look like a Jack the Ripper crime. That's my belief, and check out my video on that. But the rest of them are outdoor crimes. And this is not where a classy fellow is going to go commit his crimes if he's going to commit them, or even have sex. He might pick up a girl and bring her back to his place, or send somebody out to get a girl and bring her back to his place. I'm not saying there haven't been famous or wealthy people who do pretty squirrely things, but they're usually not rolling around in a poor area of town at 2 o'clock in the morning, gutting women behind a wall. I mean, that's just not, that usually means it's a local person who is fairly deranged, a psychopathic serial killer who gets his thrills out in rage against, well, whether they're prostitutes or just rage against society, just gutting them and getting a thrill out of pulling their parts apart. That's their little thing. Usually it's not a person who's doing well in life. It's basically a major loser. And Jacob Levy fits the bill. And I'm not saying others don't, but that's why I chose him to look at him. But again, he's my top suspect, but there's no way I can prove he did it. And I would never have the gall to say, oh, I know it's him, because I don't. I just think he's a really good suspect. Now, let's go to this whole nonsense with the DNA. And I went back, because this story is actually not new. It's kind of being rebooted. And I found this article by Kim Rossmo, who I highly respect, a retired Canadian police detective inspector. He has been a long student of the Jack the Ripper case, and he has a geographical profile, by the way. He previously examined it from the perspective of a geographic profiler, determining through mathematical modeling that the killer likely lived close to the specific street. He said Flower and Dean. So he's doing that kind of thing. But here's what he says, which I think, thank God somebody's saying this. The problems Rossmo identifies in the DNA research that this guy claims has been done based on this shawl he bought. DNA samples were recovered from a shawl purportedly found at the murder scene of Jack the Ripper's fourth victim, Catherine Eddowes. However, the shawl is not referenced in any investigation reports from the era, and the researchers failed to establish its provenance. They don't actually have a clue who the shawl belongs to. And so you're already starting off with a false premise. Oh, this is a shawl worn by one of the victims. You actually do not know that. Stains on the shawl are identified as blood from the victim and semen from the killer, although neither claim is scientifically established by the researchers. That's interesting. And this is the one I find interesting, even more so. There is no evidence of sexual activity associated with any of the Jack the Ripper murders. Correct. So although Jack the Ripper did appear to go to prostitutes, because that's how he would know them. A lot of times prostitutes actually do know their killers, and maybe they've even been with them a number of times, but they weren't killed by them because people saw the two of them together or whatever, or he wasn't in the mood. And then one moment when he sees her alone, nobody's watching, he's like, hey, and then they go someplace private and he kills her. But that during the killings that he actually committed a sexual assault is not known to be true. And can a man who's excited ejaculate essentially during a gutting killing of a female without the actual sexual activity? Sure. However, there's no proof that ever happened. And it's not, and it's her shawl. Okay. I mean, did he use it to wipe himself off? I mean, why is it on her shawl? I mean, if she's wearing it while somebody is ejaculating, well, sure, it could get on there. Or if it's on the bed and somebody's on top of her and it's under, the material's available, sure. But this is also, there's just no proof of any of this. So you can make up anything you want, but there's no proof that this is the shawl of one of the victims. There's no proof that the semen belonged to Jack the Ripper. So you don't have anything there. So now you have nothing to base it on, but okay, let's go ahead. Mitochondrial DNA testing is used to identify Aaron Kosminski as the killer, although the type of genetic marker, which can only be passed on through maternal lineage, is not a unique identifier. While mtDNA testing can be used to eliminate suspects, it cannot implicate them. So you can't prove it's him. Could be somebody else with similar DNA. And also, so supposedly the guy claims that, some relative along the way, one of the descendants is descended from him, and therefore, but again, I don't know who's doing the testing. I don't know any of the accuracy of any of this stuff, and neither does anybody else because they haven't put it out there. The researchers argue that Kosminski was first identified as a suspect of the London Metropolitan Police, but with no first name recorded. They say his name was Kosminski. It must be this Aaron Kosminski who was an inmate at an asylum. But there's conflicting biological information, maybe more than one Kosminski. So this is all very vague stuff that doesn't prove anything. And I like the statement he makes at the end of his article. Tunnel vision involves a narrow focus on a single theory, such as the exclusive targeting of Kosminski for the mitochondrial DNA test, and can lead to a premature shift from an evidence-based to a suspect-based investigation. This is very true. You're supposed to work from the evidence out, not pick a suspect and then link them in that sense. Of course, when you're just theorizing stuff, I mean, it's kind of it can go either way. I mean, oh, he looks like a good suspect. Let me see if he matches evidence. Oh, it's good evidence. Let me see if I find a suspect. It's a little not as perfect as people would like to believe, especially researchers and profilers and so on and so forth. They want to have it be very, we do it the most scientific way we can, and we do. But when you have stuff like the Ripper case, there's just massive amounts of information, most of which is not well proven. And it does not have enough. The data is very limited, and so it's not like a fresh crime where you can actually get the information, talk to the people who are involved. You can't do any of this stuff. So there's always going to be a lot of gray areas. So that's why you can't often say this is exactly the truth. This is who did it. You just don't know. So you can have your top suspects, and you can enjoy the discussion, but to make claims that you've proven it is a whole nother thing. Finally, he says, confirmation bias, a type of selective thinking, then becomes a problem. Human inclination is to confirm our theories by seeking out supporting evidence. Very true. Confirmation bias is true in any investigation. You got to be very careful when you make a decision. When you're starting investigation, you say, well, it's this. And then you try to just, everything that matches this is your proof. And if it doesn't match, you just ignore it. So human inclination is to confirm our theories by seeking out supporting information, interpreting ambiguous information as backing our beliefs, and minimizing inconsistent information. And that's the problem with this whole thing. Now, will anything come of it now that they've, it's been this bombshell in all the media? It's like, oh my God, they figured out who Jack the Ripper is. Nah. Unless this guy can come up with something as actual proof, and it's already starting with something that's not even a piece of proof. It's not even a piece of evidence. I don't know what this thing is, but it's a thing. It's a shawl. That's all we know it is. So just because an old shawl doesn't mean it is the shawl. Uh, yeah, I find it just, it annoys me because while it's interesting, and if we're presented as, there's been some new DNA work being done, and this fellow's come forward and he said, this is the DNA expert I have, and we're going to get other DNA experts together. We're working on proving this and proving that. I would respect that. But what we get is this bombshell. It's been proven. And it's very annoying. I just wish it would all, people would tone things down, because not only do I see it in this case, but I see it in so many cases that are presented on the internet and on YouTube, on major news channels. They jump the minute they get information. And I say information because it's not necessarily evidence of any sort, just information. Somebody said something. And then because they all steal from each other and plagiarize all over the place, because they don't have time in a 24-hour news cycle, they need to get so many stories out there, just snatch it from another person and throw it right on their channel. I'm not even sure why that's accepted, but it seems to be a regular thing. So you see it one place and then it just spreads to 50, 100 other places. So when you go to try to find out information and get more details, you're getting the same story over and over and over and over again, and you're getting nowhere. It takes a lot of work sometimes to get to an article like this from Kim Rossmo. So thank you, Kim Rossmo, the voice of reason. Anyway, those are my thoughts on this, and let's see whether this just peters out, which I think it probably will, because I don't think he can come up with actual proof. But we shall see. We'll see what happens in the Ripper community, the Ripperologists out there all going nuts one way or the other. So, but do check my video out on Jacob Levy, who I think is a much better suspect. And I explain a lot of how things work, and it's kind of investigation of historical things. So check that out with the link below. And if you're new to the channel, please do subscribe, like the video, check my playlist for all the stuff I do on different crimes. And yeah, if anything comes of this, I'll come back and talk about it. And we'll see. Bye-bye, everybody.